And look who's coming up.
It is just after 5:21 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, the Monday Nighter tonight has the 49ers and the Rams. We told you about some bets for tonight. We'll drop back into those a little bit later on. But it is time now to bring in our Monday staple. He joins us every Monday to recap what happened on the weekend. Mr. Jamie Thomas from Jets Radio. How are you, my man?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Josh Jacobs got off the schneid over the weekend. I had a massive comeback in our fantasy football league. Like, dude, I was down 19 going into that Sunday night game in a touchdown only league with two guys, and they both got 2 touchdowns. So, and it was over by halftime. So my night was perfect.
Yeah, you can sit back and relax at that point. I one of my half PPR leagues, I finally won. And then in our league, I won too as well. So because of Mike Evans got me a touch. No, sorry, Mike Evans is another league. Never mind. It's somebody. Somebody got me a touchdown last night.
Mike Evans got me 2 touchdowns.
That's right. I was stealing. Well, was he on your roster? Or was he on my roster? Is a question you have to ask yourself.
Well, it's 2 different leagues, so it's both rosters, right? Like we're
yes,
sharing.
That's right. No, yes. Well, I could have taken Mike Evans off your roster and put him on my roster because I have commissioner powers.
You could have, yeah.
You may have had him. But anyways, congratulations on a big win as the defending champion. It's very difficult to repeat in fantasy football, so I wish you all the best. Yeah, and we can't have Cliff Harris being the only guy in our league to repeat. Can't have that.
It's not fair. It's not fair to anybody, mostly probably people in Cliff's family who have to listen to Cliff talk about all that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about 3 things that you learned in the NFL, and I had a little fun with it. The dude loves the Eagles. Yep. Usually the dude in the Big Lebowski hates the Eagles, but you love the Eagles as the dude.
I do, and on Andy's fantasy show yesterday, I put a shot of the weather at Lincoln Field in Philadelphia, and it was not good. So, I mean, I know the field was covered for the most part, but and it looked pretty good when you watch the game. But for them to fall behind by 14 and then come back, they didn't score to the second quarter. You're wondering, maybe, are they going to lose this Jacksonville team that's kind of the upstarts? And Jalen Hurts now up to 4 rushing touchdowns in the year. Jags were the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL. I know it was only after 3 weeks, but still it's something. Philadelphia put up 210 yards on them on the ground, and the Jags only had 1 turnover heading into week 4 against Philadelphia, and Philadelphia forced 5 turnovers. So, and 2 of those were fumbles by Trevor Lawrence. So, I mean, I know it's 4 weeks, but the fact that you fall behind by 14 on your home turf, fight back, and win a big game against Jacksonville, who I think has some respect for a lot of people across the league right now. It's a big win. They're 4-0, and something to watch because Philadelphia is not boring by any stretch of the imagination. If they want to run the football, they'll run the football. And they have a pretty damn good defense as well. Because I had acquired Trevor Lawrence before the game, like right before the game. And I'm like, I'm not starting him against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. And turns out that was the right choice to do. Yeah, also, Carolina Panthers. It's not like there's always this hot shot, new coach coming in from college football. And it just, for whatever reason, buddy, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's not working in Carolina. And I feel for Baker Mayfield because of what happened to him and how he's treated in Cleveland. And, everybody loved him for about a week in Browns fans and stuff like that. And then, of course, Deshaun Watson comes along, the shiny new toy, and you forget about the guy. But I thought he would be able to succeed a little bit in Carolina because Christian McCaffrey's there. You have a decent, running game, but Christian McCaffrey can't stay healthy to save his life. And look at this. Panthers have now lost their last 24 games when the opponent scores 17 or more points.
Wow.
So that's not even that much.
No.
So it's just that. So, and they're 1-26 in games like that under Matt Rule. So it's just, I don't know, man. Like people wonder why coaches get recycled in professional sports just because it's hard to coach professional athletes. It's just hard to put together. It is so much more different than junior hockey or college football. It's just, I don't think enough people realize that. And in the Canadian Football League, I tell people all the time, there's not many people that understand the Canadian game, even especially American coaches. So that's why we see the same coaches going in and around the Canadian Football League. It's just, and if you want to win, you kind of have to tie, if you're a general manager, you have to tie your future onto these guys that are unknown in certain situations. But I mean, it looks like Matt Rule will be the first head coach fired in the National Football League, which is no surprise. And then Kenny Pickett, it's time, man. And I saw a very interesting tweet, and it was pointed out that Pittsburgh had 10 days to prepare Kenny Pickett to get ready for week number 4, because they played Thursday Night Football and they had 10 days. So I'm not I've never questioned Mike Tomlin too often, but it's time to give up on Mitch Trubisky. It's over, and you had this opportunity to prepare Kenny Pickett for this situation. I know he threw a few interceptions. 2 of them I don't believe were his fault, and Chase Claypool should be embarrassed with the effort he put in another one. So it's that was everywhere. So it's not like that's news for people. But come on. So Kenny Pickett time in Pittsburgh. I know it's easy for me to say, but when your starting quarterback is Mitch Trubisky, I just think it's time to move on now. And the division is kind of still sitting there. You know, you have an opportunity to possibly make the playoffs, so why not turn things over to the kid and see what he can do in his tiny hands. So we'll see how that works out from there.
I think a lot of divisions are still up for grabs. I mean, I think there's
Totally.
a lot to still decide this year in the NFL. There's a few unbeaten teams, or maybe even just one, but it's really like, you know, you look at what Miami did early, you look at what the Giants are doing. I mean, there's some interesting storylines in the NFL that we sometimes don't see.
And it's like there's 17 games, and I know it's like a short season. There's not that much time, but come on, like the panic button, like how about Buffalo? They're down by 20 and they come back on the road and win. So it's just be patient here. And I know there's a lot of teams, like even watching Miami lose, and that's another thing too. Like I'm going to get on my soapbox here, but Thursday Night Football, you should not be playing 4 days later. No. That's just one of the most. It's so obvious that teams should be coming off their bye week and playing on Thursday Night Football, not the other way around. Playing Thursday Night Football and have 10 days off. But easy for me to say. I know Amazon paid $1 billion a year to have their games there, so they'll whatever it is. But man, it's insane, and we won't even get into the Tua thing because I'm just gonna get mad every time I feel like the Dolphins have kind of figured things out and all that stuff. That, you know, there's all the owner trying to get the coach to lose games on purpose, and how the Tom Brady situation, like you just want to. And the Dolphins are not the only team that has let a player. Or I'm not gonna accuse anybody of anything, but a situation like this where somebody's playing where they shouldn't be playing, especially 4 days later or 5 days later, it's not good. It's a bad look. And I saw it out there. Like sometimes it's really hard to love the NFL when you see a guy laying on the ground the way Tua Tagovailoa was doing. And I mean, you're 3-0. Why do you have to put him out there? That's another thing too. Is just, you're off to a good start. It's not like you need that win. It's a Thursday night game on the road. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyways, it's tough to see. And you and I both know, and anybody out there that has a brain, you're hoping for the best for Tua, because you just don't like to see that, and you don't like to see people put in situations where they shouldn't be. And I hope that teams have learned, and the league has learned a little bit from this situation.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk a little baseball now. Playoffs start later this week. It's going to be so fun. It's just such a magical time. These are 2 matchups. Why do you want to see these 2 matchups this year?
Because I think you want, first off, as a Dodgers fan, you want revenge on the Braves. But second of all, I think this Braves team is better than the one that won it all last year, which is absolutely terrifying if you're anybody in baseball right now. I just think the Dodgers are in a good place. I know they're banged up, and their pitching staff isn't what it was, but why not see a rematch of this? Like, why wouldn't you crave this matchup? And yes, you could say you want Dodgers, Yankees in the World Series, but I just think these little matchups, but Yankees versus the Rays, the Yankees bats against the Rays pitching, it's just, just little things that you want to see again. And I believe the Dodgers and Braves are building a big rivalry here. And if you meet again in the playoffs, like why not build on something else? And if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. I just think these are two, if they do happen, and there's a long road to go here, I just think these would be glorious, Matt. Like just, I will watch every night that, and during the day, obviously, for this to happen. But Dodgers, Braves, I think a little more realistic. Yankees, Rays, hard to say. There's one step there that would see the Rays. They just got to get past, I believe it's Cleveland to get to the Yankees at this point.
So the Dodgers Braves is so interesting, obviously because of Freddie Freeman, because Alex Anthopoulos. Like there's a lot of intertwined parts, and then the Dodgers lose and they take Freddie Freeman, and the Braves are right back in there saying, hey, you got to knock us off. So I obviously I like to see LA New York because of the markets, but I wouldn't be disappointed in a World Series LA Houston where the Dodgers could get some revenge there as well.
Woo! That is juicy. Like that, like I mean, that is something we would like. I know the World Series ratings, they claim are down every year. I just don't know how you wouldn't watch that. It's so busy. I just don't know how you don't watch the World Series. And everyone's like, baseball's too slow. No, it's not. It's the World Series, man. And it's October, and it's just, I realize football's going and stuff like that, but we got to stop. Baseball is still an amazing sport, and thank goodness they've made some changes to speed things up, and they got rid of the shift. And but there's so much drama in here, and you look down, like even the Mets and Dodgers or the Padres get in there again. Like please, like St. Louis, like you got Albert Pujols still going here, and please, like this is. Like Seattle ends their drought in the playoffs. They're getting the Blue Jays. Like there's just so many things here, Dino, that you like any of these matchups. You're like, okay, I'm watching that for sure. Yeah. So I mean, to have both New York teams in the playoffs, I'm sure MLB is just crying right now with that opportunity.
Yeah, they would just like the other LA team to somehow find their way into the playoffs at some point. But I love the Mets Padres matchup because both staffs have great pitching and it's a short series. I think Albert Pujols, he might win a playoff MVP award the way he's like 11 of his 22 home runs this year have come in the last 41 games. This guy is scorching into the postseason. So I think I like the National League matchups a little bit more, although that Seattle-Toronto matchup is intriguing, but like you said, it's going to be fun, and just it's so great that there's so many extra teams in there and so many extra fan bases that get to participate.
Yeah, and it makes things like I know there's those crying and about the purists want less, and they would go back to the 4 teams, but no, this is great. There's so many. September was. You're watching all the time because of the chase for the home runs and Aaron Judge and Albert Pujols, but still you have a whole bunch of fan bases believing their teams can get in, and it's still going to be fun. So I know it's a money grab and whatever it is, but it just makes things so much more interesting when there's more, and there's just more opportunities for this type of thing to happen. So anything can happen. Any team's going to have a great chance at this, but it's just the way they've set it up is pretty wise.
All right, one college football team that dropped the ball, and this is the story of the weak hurricane, to quote Bob Dylan's song. What's going on with Miami? You're a big Miami fan too, are you not?
I am. Of course, everyone would say, "Oh yeah, you just jumped on the." Like I was Jimmy Johnson, huge fan. I loved the way the Hurricanes were so cocky, and the convicts versus the Catholic story when the Notre Dame and Miami had a huge, rivalry there for a bit. So they are that team that everybody loved to hate, but if you were a Hurricane fan, it was still, and that of course ties in that I'm a Dolphins fan. I had to have something like that. But now it seemed like they were on their way back. Mario Cristobal, they brought him back as the head coach. He's a great recruiter. He's brought some great players in, but they've just fallen off here, man. They were in the top 25, dropped out now, so it's just disappointing. But you realize that it takes a while to rebuild a program, and we've been hearing this for so long as Hurricane fans that this is going to be the year kind of thing. They're not quite there yet. We'll see how this goes, but man, I really like to see the Hurricanes back up there with competing with the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world. But it will not be this year, my friend.
No, it will not. In the NHL, here are my 3 picks for Calder candidates this year, and
Yeah.
everybody has Owen Power. When everybody is picking the same guy for the Rookie of the Year, it makes me nervous. So that's why I'm going with William Eklund. Would you put Cole Perfetti on this list? Do you think Cole Perfetti is going to get enough ice time, or is he going to be in Winnipeg? Or he's going to be in Winnipeg, but do you think Cole Perfetti is going to get enough an opportunity this year to get on this list?
To start, yes, because what Rick Bowness has decided, because Cole Perfetti clearly like of a smaller variety of player, he's put him with Blake Wheeler and Pierre-Luc Dubois based on the fact that you want some size to protect him. Two big bodies that can get him the puck, and if Cole Perfetti was a very good playmaker as well, is good at finding two big bodies like that, there's some success. So if he the more than likely he's going to stay in the top six. So I think the opportunity is there, but I don't argue with any of your candidates, Dino. Like, it's just, there's some great players in the league, and seeing William Eklund earlier last year in San Jose, yeah, he's pretty special. So I could see why you have, like, Owen Power is like the obvious choice in some ways. It's like, I get why you drop him, but I've seen a little bit of William Eklund, could see why you would put him and rank him so high, because he's a special player. And Kent Johnson, need we say more, another special player from the University of Michigan. So it's just those are three but I would slide, because of my bias, my recency bias, and the guy I see every day, I would slide Cole Perfetti in number 3 there in Calder candidates.
Yeah,
just because the opportunity is being given early. That's what we want. That's what you just don't want, these easy people to hand the trophy over to every year. You just want this up and down. I want competition for these individual awards, because then it just makes it more fun to sell the game. It's all about selling the game. So on a Tuesday night when Buffalo's in town in freezing cold Winnipeg in January, I don't even know if that's actually the date, I'm just making that up. But hey, watch Owen Power when he comes to town tonight. That's you know what, that's the best way to sell the game. So it's always tough to get people to come out when it's cold out. But why not watch Owen Power? Oh, San Jose is in town. Let's see this new kid, this whiz kid, William Eklund. That's just the way it is. You have to do it. And the more young stars there are in the league, the better it is for the game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's not every situation is equal. I mean, Dylan Holloway is not going to get the opportunity in Edmonton because there's too many guys ahead of them. So when you're looking at Calder candidates, you have to look at who's going to get the most opportunity. And I didn't put Mason McTavish on there because I think Kent Johnson gets easier matchups in Columbus than McTavish is going to get in a young Anaheim team. So it'll be interesting and it'll be fun to watch. Okay, I got to wrap up with this. Big weekend in Winnipeg, big statue unveiling of, for my generation, he was the man, Dale Hawerchuk. I am guessing it was a pretty emotional time in Winnipeg to unveil that statue.
Yeah, it was. And, Scott Arniel was a teammate of Dale's. Now Scott Arniel is an associate coach for the Winnipeg Jets. Like, he was, and Paul Edmonds, my broadcast partner, put it best. He was kind of like the conduit for Dale Hawerchuk. After Dale had passed, a lot of people went to Scott Arniel to ask him about it. And we had him on the podcast, which is Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. You can download it anytime you want. I'll throw it on your show here. He said the mourning period is over, and now it's like to celebrate. And I found that was very profound, because it's not like they're not sad that he's passed away, but now it's like this was an opportunity to celebrate what he was. And it's, of all the knocks that Winnipeg gets all the time, I don't think people here know this, but Dale Hawerchuk made this his home. He married a Winnipeg girl. He was seen out and about. He was just a guy of the people, right? And when I moved here in 17, 18, that's when they're kind of really starting. I was here for the Dale Hawerchuk joining the Jets Hall of Fame. I got to talk to him a couple times, and you just realize how humble he is, right? And that's the other part. You're sitting across the one part of our game, one part of what you and I do and what our peers do. The young kids are great to watch, but you and I growing up watching these guys, that's the best part. Like, seeing Wayne Gretzky walk by is still, I still love it. Like, you know what I mean? I can't get enough of that. I can't get enough of seeing Tony Esposito. I was in Chicago and they had just reunited with made all the Stan Mikitas and stuff like of the world. Like, I'm just there going, oh my God, that guy, my dad loved that guy. So it's just anything that has connection to you and your family watching games growing up. that's the best part about what we do. So the fact that Dale Hawerchuk was sitting there talking, I'm like, sure, my parents and I didn't really like him as I grew up as a Calgary Flames fan. But you were terrified of him when he was on the ice. It made for emotional matchups, but it didn't mean you didn't appreciate how good he was. And all the time, like, we just, like, if it wasn't for Gretzky and Lemieux, where would maybe Dale Hawerchuk gets talked about a little bit more? That's simple. And we found out that there's a photo of Gretzky and Dale Hawerchuk at Rogers Place in Edmonton. It's the only photo of a non-Oiler in the building, apparently. I think it's in the dressing room, is what I was told. So I think Mark Chipman brought that up during the ceremony on Saturday. So I find that fascinating. And remember, like, when they decided to do the alumni game, Dale Hawerchuk, like, Wayne Gretzky made sure that Dale Hawerchuk was taking part of it. So it's the coolest thing. And then the face-off, the photos of Gretzky and during the Heritage Classic, like, come on. That was the game between Montreal and Edmonton was special because in Edmonton it was the first outdoor game, but this was Winnipeg and Edmonton, and those two had battled so hard in the playoffs in the 80s. So to me, that was one of the best alumni games, like Timo Solani. I can go down the list of all the great players around the ice. We don't have to talk to Edmonton people about who the Oilers were and stuff like that. But and Paul Coffey was here, and he talked about how much he appreciated playing with them. It's nuts. It is nuts. When these things come up, you start to appreciate you. Not that I didn't. You appreciate the game more because of how special it is to the great players still to this day when they talk about those times.
This is one of my most cherished artifacts. It's a Dale Hawerchuk autograph.
And you can actually tell it's Dale Hawerchuk's handwriting.
You can read it. You can actually read
unlike
that it's Dale Hawerchuk's name.
The 10 helps. The 10 helps.
Yeah,
and you didn't tell me it was Dale Hawerchuk's autograph. But it of course it's cherished because this another thing living here, buddy, like, again, I was in Calgary growing up outside in Cochrane. I didn't like the Jets, but living here I realized how important they were and how hard it was for everybody when they left. So now that they've brought 1.0 and 2.0 together, you appreciate them even more. And Dale Hawerchuk was special, and from the more stories I hear about him, another cool story before I go, Dino, I don't want to take up all your time, is that Mark Chipman and Craig Heisinger, who was the assistant general manager of the Jets, they phoned Dale right before he had passed away to let him know that they were building a statue in his honor outside of the building. And, Dale got emotional, and, everybody was emotional. And, those cool moments. And I'm so glad and thrilled, and I know they are, that they were able to tell Dale before he passed away that this was happening because how much he means to Winnipeg and how much Winnipeg meant to him. So it was a great weekend. It's too bad it wasn't a regular season game, but the timing was perfect for the family and everything. So that's how it worked out. So, but it was special. It was a special night.
Now everybody that comes to a regular season game will get to walk past that glorious statue and realize how.
I expect you to take a photo in front of that, buddy. When you get into Winnipeg, I want to see the photo of you and Trish in front of that. I'll take it.
Can't wait. I can't wait for that, my man. Okay, thanks so much. Enjoy the Monday Nighter. Who do you like? 49ers, Rams?
I'll go with the Rams, but I don't think it's going to be – I think it's going to be ugly. I just don't think the scoring is going to be very good. But we'll watch it anyways because we love football.
We do. Thanks as always, my man. We'll talk soon.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
There's Jamie Thomas from Jets Radio. And, of course, he's the executive director of our Twitch channel. Dale Hawerchuk, listen, I'm going to be really Manitoban here, but Dale Hawerchuk is one of the most important athletes to have played in Winnipeg. That's it. That's simple. That's it. In Manitoba. Not the biggest province. I know that. He's not from there, but he had a major impact, and great to see that statue in Winnipeg and his legacy being celebrated.